Hello everyone, my name is Matt, also known as the Survivor Guy, and today I'm going to show you the best way to hold your buoy in order to guarantee that you win Survivor's Buoy Challenge.
For today's challenge, you're going to balance on a narrow perch while holding a buoy between two handles. If at any point the buoy drops or you fall off the perch, you're out.
So for those of you who may not know, the official title of this challenge is Can't Buoy Me Love, which sounds awful just saying out loud, but yes, that is the official title, posted on the Survivor official YouTube channel and everything. And your main objective in this challenge is to use two sticks to hold a buoy while balancing on a beam for as long as possible. Avid fans of Survivor may have noticed in the several times that they've done this challenge that there are typically three strategies that people take to hold their buoy. The first, and the most common, is to have both of your sticks up at an angle, holding your buoy like that. The second one is purely horizontal, so both sticks horizontal on both ends and just push it in, use the tension to hold it up. And then the third, which is the most rare and kind of most unorthodox method, is to hold your buoy down at an angle like this. Personally, every time I've seen this challenge, I've looked at the various strategies that people use to hold their buoy, and I'm like, I wonder which of these are the most effective, because at first glance, to me, holding your buoy down like that seems like the least effective strategy, but people do it all the time, so maybe there's something to it. And that's the thing that I'd like to figure out today. Which of these three strategies is really the most optimal strategy to make sure that you're holding your buoy the longest, and why is that the most optimal strategy? So, in order to test this, I've made my own DIY bootleg version of this challenge. It's a little rough, but I actually think it works out pretty well for our purposes here. So the first thing that I did is make the sticks that you need to hold it up. If I had any drumsticks, I figured those would be perfect, but I am not a drummer. What I did have is a bunch of extra coat hangers. So what I did is I cut out the bottom of 4 coat hangers. They're not very sturdy, and I noticed the sticks on Survivor need to be pretty sturdy to hold this thing up. So I took 2 of those coat hanger pieces, taped them together, did that for both sticks, so both sticks are comprised of 2 pieces of coat hanger taped together, taped on both ends, and an extra piece of tape in the middle, just to make sure it's really stable. So those are what I'm going to be using to hold up my buoy in this challenge. And then I needed to figure out how to make the buoy itself. My original idea was to take a soccer ball and try and cut holes in it. Then I realized it just popped the soccer ball and it'd be a complete and utter disaster. So instead what I did is I got a empty toilet paper roll and I cut off very small strips of that. And the idea is to take those 2 strips and tape them to opposite ends of the soccer ball and then put duct tape over it. And by putting duct tape over it, there's a little bit of give, and that little bit of give will kind of act as the holes that are just a little bit too small that you see on the buoys in Survivor. So now that I have my bootleg challenge set up, it's time to start testing out the 3 different styles of holding your buoy and seeing which one holds up the best. Personally, I've always thought the purely horizontal one would be the strategy that I would try. I don't know why I think that one would work out the best. Maybe it's just a physicist's intuition. But let me know in the comments below which one you think is going to work out the best, and let me know at the end of this video if you were right. Alright, so I've got my sticks here, I've got my balance beam here, got my buoy over here ready to go. Normally it'd be in front of you and you'd pick it up like that, but I didn't want to block the camera, so this is going to be an awkward start. But for this first one, I'm going to start by doing it in the position most people do, which is the upright position. So actually I might grab this first and then get up on the beam. Okay, so it looks like I am steady. Survivor's ready. Start the timer. Okay, immediately, the one on the right looks very precarious. It's just barely hanging on there. The balance beam part of it doesn't feel that challenging. I think my balance beam is a bit wider than what they would typically use on Survivor, but let's lock in. Well, that was embarrassing. That did not take very long. Alright, so right out the gate, my first attempt did not go very well. One of the things that I noticed, and the thing that I kind of expected to be the biggest problem for me with this strategy, was right from the get-go, my right stick was kind of teetering on the edge of that little grip on the side of the buoy. And with something as precarious as this challenge, once you're a little bit off, trying to correct for it can lead to the disastrous result that you saw right there. So I think that wasn't even a minute that I was up there, and I went straight down. If you think about it in a physics sense, it does make sense that holding your buoy at an upright angle like that would be your first instinct, because the force that you're trying to overcome by holding up your buoy is gravity, which always points downward. So it would make sense that you, to fight the downward force, want to apply a force upward. But I think where this thing kind of falls apart is because you have such little space on the holes on the side of your buoy, it doesn't take a whole lot for you to lose your grip and have your entire challenge just fall apart right in front of you. I'm curious to try this next one because I think this is going to resolve the issue I had in the first style. So this one I'm going to do holding it purely horizontal, and I think by doing that, it's going to allow my two sticks to go more into the hole, which might give me a bit of a better grip. So let's try it and find out. Alright, so this time I'm going to try holding it purely horizontal and see if that makes it any easier. So, right away trying to get a grip on it is difficult, but I have my ball up on my beam. Survivor's ready. Start that timer. Cool. One thing I noticed, same problem as last time, my right stick is already slipping out. Maybe I just didn't make the grip on the right side of the buoy good enough. I definitely feel more steady this time around, but it could just be the fact that I've practiced by trying it a different way first that might be influencing it here. But definitely doing better than the first time. Shoot. That was still pretty bad. Alright, so a minute and a half is a little bit better than my first time around, but still nowhere near beating Brad Culpepper's record of 23 minutes. So let's talk about what happened this time. I had hoped by going purely horizontal that I'd be able to make better contact with my sticks and the holds on the sides of the buoy in order to allow me to kind of hold it and balance it better. But I actually, in practice, found that it kind of worked against me. So I mentioned in the last one that by holding it up at an angle, you're applying a force upwards, which makes it easier to oppose gravity going down. When you hold something purely horizontal, you're applying your force purely horizontal rather than upward. And the reason that things don't fall down is because of friction. By applying a force horizontally, you're increasing the friction between your sticks and the buoy, and that friction is what opposes gravity. Since this is less direct than just applying an upward force yourself, you're going to need to apply more force horizontally in order to keep your ball from slipping downward. But the problem with applying more force is when you hold it purely horizontally, if you apply too much force and you twitch a little bit, now all of a sudden this one's at an angle, this one's straight, so your entire ball rotates, which is what ended up getting me at the end. So I think horizontal actually ended up being more tricky than the upright method, even though I did last longer, because you had to find a perfect balance with how much force you're applying on it. Too much force, and your entire thing twists and falls to the ground. Not enough force, friction can't overcome gravity, and your ball drops. Now I'm interested to try the third method, which is holding your buoy at an downward angle. At first glance, this one seems like the most ridiculous and the least effective, but let's try it and see if there's something to it. Alright, take number 3. This time I'm going to hold the buoy downwards. So I've got a good grip. I'm up on my beam. Jeff, let's start that timer. Interesting. So right away, I can already tell the problem that I had last time of putting too much or too little force on it is kind of gone. Obviously, I'm not using all my strength because then my muscles would get tired really quickly, but I also don't feel like if I push too hard, the entire thing's going to go spinning out on me. So that's definitely a plus to this method. My right one is slipping again. It's always the right one, man. It's always the right one. I've got maybe 10 more seconds. This thing's going down. I'm fighting. Never give up in Survivor. I don't know if you can see it on my right side. That thing is barely hanging on. I have no idea how it hasn't fallen already, but I'm fighting. And there it goes. Okay, so still not super impressive, but significantly better than the last two on this third one. Looking at this one, the same kind of physics principles apply as the first one. So you're applying an upward force to combat gravity. The only difference would be the muscles that you're using. So your first one, you're holding up like this, you're gonna be using your muscles to push it up, whereas holding it like this, it's more of a pulling motion. Anatomy isn't really my area of expertise, so I really don't know specifically which muscle is stronger than which other one. I will say it did feel a bit more comfortable holding it this way than it did holding it up the first time, albeit I didn't hold it up very long the first time doing it upright. But from a purely physics perspective and from just the way I felt all three times while holding it both upright at an angle and down at an angle seemed to be worlds better than holding it horizontal, which I guess means I was as wrong as one could possibly be with my initial prediction. Let's take a step back now and look at all three of our different methods. If we think about what did me in on all three, right? The first one, I didn't have a good start. My right one was slipping to begin with. I tried to readjust, whole thing fell. Second one, didn't have a good start. Tried to readjust, whole thing fell. Third one, had a pretty decent start. One thing started slipping, tried to readjust, whole thing fell. To look at the challenge as a whole, there are pros and cons to all three of these strategies, but what really is important and what's really going to help you is making sure that you have a solid grip when you start. Because at any point in this challenge, if you try to make some kind of adjustment, you're done. And looking at the history of this challenge in Survivor, I think it kind of makes sense that it doesn't matter so much how you choose to hold it, but rather that you don't panic. Because if we look at the three winners that we've had so far, each winner does a different strategy. Brad Culpepper, who holds the record for the longest time in this challenge and was the first person to win it, went with the perfectly horizontal method, the one that was my least favorite.
Tie, drops, Culpepper wins individual immunity.
Dan, second person to win it, goes with the downward angle method.
Angelina slipping out of the hole. She's got to recover. That's it. Angelina drops. Dan wins individual immunity.
And then Tori, the third person to win it, had hers in the upright position.
Control. That quivering is a sign. Imminent danger. He's trying. He's still in it. Jonathan's going to drop out. Tori wins her second individual immunity.
So I think the big conclusion to this whole thing is do whatever is the most comfortable for you, because whatever you pick, you need to stick with that for the entire challenge. There is no changing, there is no making an adjustment. That is just a recipe for disaster. If you're looking for my personal preference, I think the downward one was actually the most comfortable for my muscles, which was kind of surprising because going in, that's what I thought would be my least favorite. And obviously my least favorite was purely horizontal. I thought that one has the most wear on your body and also was the most precarious because in addition to working on the balance, you also have to be very careful with how much force you're putting on your buoy. So there you have it. The optimal strategy to beating the buoy challenge is not any one particular style, but it is whatever you think is going to be the most comfortable for you and not deviating from that at all. Thank you everybody for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please make sure to like and subscribe. I would really appreciate that. And if you work at CBS, give me a call. Thanks for watching, everybody.